one more thing about fortitude to mention that goes with our afternoon text. And because one of the types of fortitude is dealing with illness and pain and stuff like that. So I find this, the one I'm going to explain, very helpful. But it depends, I think, a lot to what extent karma makes sense to you and you believe in the law of karma and its effects. So when we're sick, what's happening is some negative karma we created in the past is ripening. Yeah. If you're a Dharma practitioner, when you get sick, then, or you get injured or whatever, you say, oh, good. Now the negative karma that could have ripened in a very bad rebirth is ripening now in something small that I can actually manage. Okay. Even though if you don't think like that, whatever your illness or injury is, it seems absolutely huge, like you can't manage it. But then when you think this karma could have ripened in a lower rebirth, it ripened now, even though I'm quite sick. It's, I can handle it compared to a lower rebirth. It's not that bad. And then what that does is it helps you to purify that karma. So it's not just that the karma is ripening, but you're purifying other karma too that could have caused a very bad rebirth in the future. Okay, is that making sense to you? I'll give you an example. One of my Dharma friends she was in retreat in the monastery in Nepal, and she got a huge boil on her cheek and was walking. One day she was walking around the monastery, of course, feeling very sorry for herself because it really hurt. And she bumped into our teacher, and she said, how are you? And she said, oh, I have this horrible boil. And he looked at it and he said, wonderful. And she's like, yeah. And then, what he explained is that it was indeed wonderful because that karma is ripening now. It's finishing. It can't ripen as something worse later on. Okay. So that way of looking at the situation, like I said, is extremely helpful. To prevent the mind from just being overwhelmed by what you're going through at that particular moment. Yeah. And it actually works to your benefit in terms of purifying other karma that normally wouldn't have been purified. Okay. So I thought to mention that because it's quite helpful. Because like I said this morning, we're all going to get sick at some time or another. Yeah. And so even when small things happen, whenever I trip in the forest, I say, very good, some negative karma got used up. Or not necessarily in the forest, you trip anywhere, whatever happens, like that. You have a headache, you have pain somewhere, and you just say, oh, this is good. And it really changes how you're experiencing the situation. Yeah. So try it. You have to remember it. That's the thing. We write it all down. We have it in a book, that section underlined about, the antidotes for this and that. But when the situation comes, we're like, what do I do? What do I do? Yeah. Yeah. And the thought of going and looking at our notes or rewriting our notes, or writing these things up, or even looking on the website doesn't even occur to our mind. Yeah, it's instant, like, I better ask somebody what to do, even though we may have heard it many, many times ourselves. So it's good to practice these techniques for transforming our experience in your daily meditation, so that you get used to thinking in a new way, and you practice thinking in that way. And if you're not having that particular problem on that day, that's okay. We've had different problems enough in previous lives, or not previous lives, previous time, we've lived how many years and we've had problems? Okay, so you just remember some situation in the past, and then you recall it and you imagine thinking in this new way, in that situation from the past. And often when doing so, you realize that you hadn't really made peace with the past. Yeah, that like, okay, out of sight, out of mind, but you hadn't really, your mind wasn't completely peaceful with it. Whether it was illness or a breakup or, who knows what going on in your life, getting fired or, whatever it was, that somehow still our mind was like, it shouldn't happen to me. And so then you use those situations and you just learn how to do these meditations. Yeah. And then when something happens in the future, since you've already practiced it in your daily meditation, it's much easier to recall. Okay. So I didn't do a real long introduction this time. So we'll maybe spend a few minutes thinking about this last one that I just described, and then we'll have the talk. And cultivate your motivation. So there were two questions. One is, if we confess all our negativities and offenses amassed from beginningless time and purify them, can anything negative happen to us? Once all those things are gone, and all the defilements are gone, you are a Buddha, and no, nothing is negative is going to happen. Even for arhats, they are not fully awakened, but they've eliminated the causes for rebirth. And so they don't, there may be things that happen to them that they don't like, but they don't suffer because of these kinds of things. And then the other one is asking me to show in slow motion with the camera close up on my hands how I do the mandala offering thing. So I think you love recording with the camera, with the phone. So maybe we can do that. You can put that online. Okay? Yeah, sure. Yeah. She loves recording with the phone. That's really her thing. I'll describe it as I'm doing it, and then maybe you can play it. You'll see my hands. They should be used for an advertisement for hand lotion. The need for hand lotion. Okay, maybe good to stand in back of me so that somebody can see how they're doing it themselves. Okay, so you have your two pinkies and you put your thumbs on top of them. Those are two of the continents. You put your two ring fingers together and they stick up. That's Mount Meru. And then you put your right middle finger on your left index and your right index underneath your left middle finger. And now you have 4 continents and Mount Meru.
And then the other part of that question is she wants to see how you release it because
you just turn it this way. Just turn it into, your hands are like this and you just turn it towards yourself. Naturally, your fingers come undone. Okay? Good. Okay, so we'll continue with Nagarjuna's letter to a friend. So we finished the part on fortitude yesterday, which was, and I was thinking about that last night, and that's what I talked about it this morning and then just now, to fill in some of the things that weren't said here. If you want more material on practicing fortitude, down in our little book place, there's a book called Working with Anger. So that has many, meditations to do. Now I have the hiccups again. Okay, so now we're on the 4th perfection, which I like to translate as joyous effort. Some people translate it as enthusiasm. In this book, it's translated as diligence. Okay. I like joyous effort because you have to make effort, but you do it with a happy mind. Okay. So the verse 19 talks about what one should be diligent or have enthusiastic, joyous effort for. Okay, so the verse says, some there are who go from light to light, and some whose end from dark is darkness still, while some from light to dark or dark to light end up, thus 4 of these be as the first. Okay, now to explain that in English. There's 4 permutations of being in a fortunate rebirth or an unfortunate rebirth, and then your next rebirth being fortunate or unfortunate. Okay, so the first way is you're in a fortunate rebirth and you practice well and you have a fortunate rebirth in your next life, That's going from light to light. Okay. And that's what we want to do. Okay. Then there's, you start out in a bad rebirth and next life you have another bad rebirth. And this explains the difficulty once we get born in an unfortunate rebirth of having a good one again, because it's very difficult to create virtuous karma when, let's say, you're born as an animal. Yeah. What you're reliant on then, and what we do with our pets, is, you have to see figures of the Buddha or walk around a stupa or hear Dharma teachings, have some kind of contact with Dharma teachings that plants a seed in your mind so that at the, when your unfortunate rebirth comes to an end, maybe that karma will ripen and you can have a good rebirth. Okay. So, we used to have the teachings in that building over there, but once we built this one that has aircon, then, we moved the teachings over here. But when we had the teachings there, all 4 cats came to the teachings. Yeah. And sometimes they behaved, sometimes they didn't. Mostly they slept through the teachings, just like some of the monastics did. So, yeah. But it puts good seeds in their minds. And when we walk the cats, we try and go around in the garden. If you've sat out in the garden, walk them around the Buddha, image in the center of the garden. When we hold them, we often show them the pictures on the altar or whatever. And, they have heard a lot of teachings. So, but they haven't understood them very well. And it's very cute. Many of the people, when we talk about this, they'll send us pictures of them listening to the teachings online, and their dog is, stretched out in front of the computer, and the cat is curled up in their lap. And do your dogs listen to?
Oh, absolutely. Chanting in the morning. I have an audience every morning on the couch.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, this is some way to benefit the animals. Okay. Then some people go from light to dark, so they have a good rebirth this time, and they don't restrain their mind and their speech and their body from negativities. They don't purify. So next lifetime, they have a bad rebirth, an unfortunate rebirth. Okay. And then some people go from an unfortunate rebirth to a good rebirth. For example, we're hoping that's what happens with the cats. Yeah. And, when I see the deer, and you may have noticed the big cows, one of them, I think, was an opera singer in a previous life with a deep baritone voice. Oh, yeah, you'll hear him. And so often when I see the different animals in the forest, I'll kind of say some Dharma to them, in the hope that, something gets planted in the mind stream. Yeah, they may not understand it, but, things can happen subconsciously. Like when you're in the movie theater and they show a thing of whatever they want you to eat very quickly and you don't notice it, but it plants the seed in your mind, and then you go buy some junk food. So, it's like that. Things can, good seeds can get planted that way. Okay, so that's verse 19, advising us to be like the first. We have a good rebirth now. And here, good rebirth, doesn't just mean any old human rebirth. Okay, it means a fortunate rebirth. We could say a human rebirth is a fortunate rebirth, okay, in the sense that it doesn't have the extreme suffering that some of the unfortunate rebirths have. But sometimes we talk about a precious human life. And when we talk about a precious human life, that isn't just any old human life. It's a human life with different conditions that enable us to encounter the Dharma, to hear teachings, to put them into practice. Yeah. And so to have that kind of rebirth is very difficult, because there's quite a number of causes you have to create to live in a place where you can encounter the Dharma, to have a mind that is receptive to it, to have Dharma friends, to meet teachers, to have all your senses intact. Nagarjuna goes into this further on in the text, but a precious human rebirth is quite rare. So what we really want to do as best as we can is create the causes for them. So ethical conduct to have a good rebirth, to start with, and then these 6 perfections in order to fill it out with the other good conditions, and then also to dedicate the merit so that it will ripen not only for the enlightenment of ourselves and others, but also for us to have a precious human rebirth in the next life so that we can continue practicing. Yeah. And the reason that's important is because we've spent a lot of time in previous lives creating the cause to have the opportunity we have now to meet and practice the Dharma. And, if we blow it, so to speak, and we wind up in one of the unfortunate realms, then, it's hard to come out because it's hard to create that cause. Okay. So, and we need several, not just several, a lot, a continuum of really good rebirths in order to create all the causes for full awakening, because it takes time to do that. Okay, so that was verse 19. Verse 20 is an instruction on joyous effort in matching intention and application. So the verse says, men, maybe human beings. Let's try human beings. Okay, human beings, like mangoes, can be sour. I don't think being sour is limited to men. Okay. Human beings, like mangoes, can be sour and yet look ripe. Though some ripe look green, and others green are sour indeed, while others still look ripe, and ripe they are. From this know how to act. Okay, so again, a translation into English. I often feel that that's one of my primary jobs, is to translate from English into English. Okay, so here there's, again, 4 permutations between something being sweet or sour and something and something looking ripe or not looking ripe. Okay, so human beings are like the fruit of mango trees. Yeah, so some seem ripe, Yeah. In other words, their deeds are look very good. They look wholesome. They look virtuous. But in fact, they are unripe. They're actually green because their intention is non-virtuous. Okay. So we know how to do that, don't we? Yeah. We know how to have a rotten intention and put on a good impression and make people think well of us. Okay. This is called hypocrisy. The polite way is saying creating a good impression, but it's basically hypocrisy. Okay. And so there, the intention is rotten, but it looks good, what they call the application looks good. For other people, the intention is rotten and the action is rotten too. And it's evident that the action is rotten. Okay. An example of the first, a rotten intention and looking good, is we become very, very helpful to other people because we want them to depend on us, or we want them to like us, or we want them to feel obliged to return a favor to us. In other words, we want to use them for some kind of self-gain. Yeah, we give a present. Yeah, so it looks like something good, but our motivation is, I give you a present, then, you're supposed to give me one that's even better than what I gave you. Okay, that kind of stuff. So I'm sure we can think of lots and lots of examples of this. Anybody here done that? Some people are saying yes, and some people are just, no, you've never done that. Never? You better nod your head. I'm joking. Okay. Then other times our intention is rotten, our action is rotten. Okay. So we want to deceive somebody through lying because it gives us benefit, and then we go ahead and lie. Okay. Then there's the situation where the action looks bad, but the intention is a good one. Okay? And there's many times when this happens. We want to be of benefit to somebody. There's a sincere wish to help, not a wish to control, but a sincere wish to help. But we don't know what to do, and we give the wrong advice, and it turns out worse for somebody. Okay, so the intention was good, but the action was not so good. Okay, an example of this would be your family is poor, and so you go steal from somebody else in order to give that to your family. Okay, so it starts out good. You want to help your family, but stealing is not a virtuous action. And then there are actions where the intention is virtuous and the action itself is virtuous. And those are the ones we really want to do. And that's why, for example, before we sit down to listen to teachings, we generate a good motivation, and then we listen to teachings and we try and focus on the teachings and have a positive attitude while we're listening. Okay. Or, you have when we were talking yesterday about really being generous, and you have a good intention, you just want to give, and then you give, without any expectation of even karmic, results that benefit you, or expectations that other people thank you. You just do it because it feels good. Okay. So that's verse 20. Yeah. So this is different than how joyous effort is usually described. Yeah, because in the Lam Rim, they talk about it. A chief element in joyous effort is overcoming discouragement. Yeah, and overcoming being the busiest of the busy, doing lots of worldly actions. Okay. Actually, talking about that kind of stuff comes a little bit later in the book. Yeah. Here, he's just going through the 6 perfections quite quickly, at least the first 4 quite quickly. Now on concentration, the 5th one, he spends many more verses. Okay. So that was verse 20. Verse 21 starts talking about concentration. And so one of the first things we do to concentrate is we have to stop being so distracted. Okay. And here comes the whole topic of controlling our senses. Yeah, because eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, mind, 6 senses, okay? And as beings in what's called the desire realm, we are always involved with external objects. Yeah, always looking outside of ourselves because we think our happiness and suffering comes from outside. And so our senses are very active. We're always searching out what is attractive and trying to bring it close, and searching out what is potentially antithetical to my happiness and, pushing it away, destroying it, or us getting away from it. Okay. And this is how we spend most of our lives. Yeah. It sounds very crass to say this, but if we really look at our lives, it's really how we spend most of our time. Yeah. Just in this push and pull with sense objects. So we have to learn to control our senses. Yeah. And so not just controlling our reactions to the sense objects that we perceive, but controlling even the contact with some of the sense objects that our mind really goes crazy about. Okay. So we want to get to the point where our inner mind is very strong and we aren't interested in those things and they don't throw us off. But at the beginning, because our whole life is so outer directed and we're so hooked by external objects, at the beginning of our practice, and beginning doesn't mean just the first month or the first year, it's a good chunk of time, then we have to be clear. We have to keep clear of the objects and activities that evoke our attachment and our anger, that are uncontrolled emotions in ourselves. Okay, so it's kind of the thing. Like, okay, I love this example. If you weigh 400 pounds and you want to lose weight, and you want to see your friends, do you meet your friends at 31 Flavors? Yeah. No, that isn't so smart, is it? Yeah. If you weigh 400 pounds, you want to lose weight, you refrain from having contact with something, where your attachment goes nuts. Yeah. And so a lot of our monastic precepts are about that. We don't sing, we don't dance. Why? Because again, it evokes a lot of attachment in our mind. It can be very distracting for our meditation. Yeah, we shave our hair, again, because hair is a big object of attachment. Yeah. And whatever your hair is, you want it to be different. And it's not just women, this is men too. Yeah. And so we just cut it off. It's why we wear the same clothes all the time. And we all wear the same clothes. Okay. Because then we just, it's teaching us not to get attached to the different clothing that we could wear, and worrying about how we look and do I look good and da 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 da. Because again, that is objects of attachment. Okay. And so a lot of the precepts are that way. And that's also why at the Abbey, none of the monastics have their own personal car. A car is a big object of attachment. Okay, so nobody has their own personal car. We have vehicles, but they belong to the Abbey. Yeah. And so our computers belong to the Abbey. That phone that she used, that she really likes to use, belongs to the Abbey. It doesn't belong to her, right? Yeah. And she uses it for Abbey things. She doesn't use it for her own things. Yeah. So, this is one way in which we train our mind. Yeah. As monastics, we aren't allowed to go to military parades. I guess some people think those are interesting. I find them extremely boring. Yeah. People love military parades. Yeah, and they talk about in ancient times, they paraded the horses, they paraded the elephants, and people would gather there and cheer them on. And nowadays, they parade the missiles and they parade the tanks and all this stuff. And some people like it and they feel really powerful. Personally, I think it's boring. But some people like it. So I think this was one of the precepts that the monks had first, and then we got by it being passed down. Yeah. So lots of things like that. Yeah. Okay. So the first one that he says to the king, because the king clearly has some problem with this. Yeah, is guarding the senses from others' wife. So this may have been Trump's previous incarnation, but it's good advice. Yeah, maybe. It says wives. It doesn't have to be wives. This could have been Harvey Weinstein's previous incarnation, or Jeffrey Epstein's, or, any number of people's. So the advice in verse 21, do not gaze on others' wives. Yeah. And if you do, regard them as your mother, child, or sibling, depending on their age. Should lust arise, think well. They are by nature unclean filth. That last line really hits you. Okay, so he's clearly talking to a king, a heterosexual male. Okay, so you have to adjust this verse according to who you are and who you are attracted to. Okay, so it doesn't just pertain, like this. It's advice for everybody. Okay, so basically for the king, he shouldn't sit there and, check out all the women who are walking by. And similarly nowadays, in your workplace, in the place where you live, wherever, don't put your senses on checking out everybody. Yeah, that's not helpful to your Dharma practice. Yeah. Because what do? You close your eyes to meditate. And then you're running through, this one's better looking than that one, and that one's better looking than, all this, how our mind, we've all had experience with this, right? Yeah. So, but if you do look at people, okay, and some attraction arises, if there's somebody who's older, think of them like your mother. The idea being that you really wouldn't be sexually attracted to your mother, okay? Or see them as your child, that you wouldn't be attracted to your child, or your sibling, you wouldn't be attracted to your sibling. As we know, these things are not always true, okay? And there's incest in families and so on. But, start out with this as the easiest thing to do, and see if this works, to see it as somebody who, by regular societal values, it would be improper for you to be attracted to. Okay? So you do that depending on their age, if they're older than you or younger than you or around your same age, okay? But should lust still arise, because, you're not really focusing on that. Yeah, they're like my mother. Oh, yeah, he's like my father, but, he's actually better looking than my father. Yeah, okay. Yeah, and he's also 30 years younger than my dad. Okay, so anyway, should lust arise, then you look at their body and you mentally dissect it, okay? And this is one of the very well-known meditations that the Buddha taught, that Shantideva taught, that Nagarjuna taught, and that is the basis for when we practice the 4 establishments of mindfulness. It's the basis for mindfulness on the body, which means that we're just looking at what the body is. Okay? So it's very good for sexual attachment. It's also good for attachment to our own body, so that when we die, we aren't so attached to this body, not wanting to separate from it. So there's quite an elaborate meditation where you go through 32, you examine 32 parts of the body. Okay, let's see if we can get the first pentade. I haven't practiced this in a while. Head, hair, body, hair, nail, teeth, skin. Okay, so those are the things you see first with a person, okay? So mentally you look, you take their head hair, and you put it out there. And you ask yourself, is that hair something that I lust after? No. Okay, body hair. Yeah. So what do? You imagine that the hair in their armpit, in their arms, wherever. Is that something that you lust after? Mm-mm. Okay. Head hair, body hair, nails. Yeah. Oh, some people have very pretty hands and their nails are polished. I mean, this is a big thing. People spend a lot of money on their nails, and when things were starting to open up from COVID, what was one of the things people wanted to do? They wanted to go to the barber and the beauty shop for their head hair, and they wanted to go have a manicure, pedicure for their nails. Okay, interesting, isn't it? One of the first things that people were longing for after the lockdown, okay? But if you took somebody's nails off and put them here, Then what? Are they so nice? Yeah. Okay, head hair, body hair, nails, teeth. Oh, your teeth are like pearls. Okay, so you imagine here's this person you're attracted to, and you take their teeth out and you put them here. Or if you want to do it elaborate, you can keep the teeth attached to the bone and you have the whole. Okay? Are their teeth so beautiful? Even, when you're, the smiles, yeah? Can you make it smile? Hold up the sides of the jaw, Are the teeth so beautiful? Are you so attracted to those teeth? Look at that molar. Wow, is that sexy? Yeah. No, that doesn't cut it either. Then skin. Oh, maybe it's the skin. People who have, people who are young have very smooth skin, not many moles, not many freckles, no wrinkles. It's beautiful skin. And you've used all these products and spent a lot of money on your skin. Okay, so you're attracted to somebody with beautiful skin. So you imagine taking the skin off their body. Yeah, like you skin people skin an animal. You take the skin and you drape it here. Because, the skin, when it's not touched the body, it's just, it doesn't have any form. It's just kind of this stuff. And you drape it here. Now, is that so beautiful? Is that what you're attracted to? No, that doesn't work either. Okay. Anybody remember the second pentet? How's this? Body, spirit, can. What? That's the second one? Okay. Flesh, bones, bone. Yeah, flesh, muscles, sinews, bones, marrow, and kidney. Wow, that kidney. Yeah, have you ever seen a kidney that looked like that? Yeah, or the muscles. You imagine their muscles spread out here. Is that what you want to embrace? Yeah. Muscles, sinews. Sinews. Yeah. Like when you're preparing chicken and there's the sinews that hold the muscles to the bones. Okay, then the bones. Yeah. Those bones, wow. Yeah, look at that skeleton. Yeah, can't keep my hands away. Can't keep my eyes away. Look at that skeleton. Yeah. Bones, marrow. Yeah. Marrow. Venerable Jigme, what does marrow look like? Gelatinous, white, viscous stuff. Yeah, that's not so attractive. But those kidneys, wow, that really does it, doesn't it? Yeah. Maybe that's how Lady Gaga got so famous, is because of her kidneys. And Melania Trump was a model, Maybe it was her bone marrow. And Britney Spears, that poor girl, yeah, maybe it was her muscles. No, I think we have to go on further. It was her pancreas. Yeah. So we look at what it is that we find so attractive in somebody else's body, you know? And then you say, well, it's not any of them individually, it's you put the whole thing together. But the whole thing together is still all those individual icky parts. Okay. And then we say, it's not just somebody else's body, my body looks like that too. Yeah, why do I cling on to this body so much? You know, because at death time, one of the things we cling to is our body. You know, I don't want to separate from this body. And yet, what is it? It's a bunch of vegetable goo. You know, it's really not so attractive when you look. Yeah, when you actually open your eyes and look at what it is. Okay, so this is what Nagarjuna is recommending to the king. Yeah, look honestly at what it is that you find so attractive that, you know, you want to jump in bed with it. Okay, this is why at many Theravada monasteries, when you go in, there's a skeleton hanging outside the meditation hall. Yeah, I think now we can get plastic ones. Yeah, but I think I don't care, plastic bone, having a real bone, you know, it just makes you think, what is this thing that I lust after? There's nothing there. Okay. Then so that's verse 21. And, you know, he talks some more about it as we go on. Shantideva goes into a big thing. In chapter 5, this is the text I'm teaching Thursday mornings. It goes into it in Shantideva chapter 8. Huge explanation, you know, and it's very effective for the mind if you meditate on it. If you don't, it's just something to laugh about. Yeah, but if you meditate on it, it really works as an antidote to lust. Okay, the next verse 22 is about guarding the senses from other desires. So, you know, sexual desire is the most intense one that we have as desire realm beings. But we have lots of desires, don't we? Okay. So verse 22 says, guard this fickle mind as you would do your learning, children, treasure, or your life. Renounce all sensual pleasures as if it were a viper, poison, weapon, foe, or fire. Okay, so if you want to develop concentration in your meditation, you know, we have to counteract the mind that is distracted to sense objects. Yeah, and that's why this is the first topic he's talking about under concentration, and why there's actually many verses about this. Okay, so what he's saying your fickle mind, and if we look, our mind is very fickle. Yeah, one day it likes this, one day it likes that, it likes the other thing, it craves this, it craves that. I mean, our mind is totally out of control that way. Okay, so we're advised to guard the mind in the way that you would protect what you have learned. So, you know, if you've put energy into learning different things, then you want to protect your knowledge. Yeah. And you remember it again and again, you use it. Okay. Guard your mind like a beloved child. Yeah, if you had a child, you would take good care of it. You would protect it. Yeah. So here, what we're protecting our mind from is the sense objects that our mind is so reactive towards. Guard our mind like we would a valuable treasure. Yeah, you don't just leave it around somewhere. You, again, the whole idea of protect it. And guard the mind as if it were your cherished life. We protect our life because it's valuable. So we want to protect our mind from wandering all over the universe to, any kind of thing that it could deem beautiful and gorgeous and attractive. Or, something that we deem fearful and threatening. Our mind wanders off to that kind of stuff too. Mostly our mind wanders to objects of attachment. But I think for some people, maybe it goes more to objects of anger. Okay, so Nagarjuna instructs us to shy away from sensual pleasure as if it were a viper. Okay, so like some cobra or python or something, I mean, if you saw one of those snakes, you wouldn't go pet it. Yeah. As if it were poison. We don't casually drink poison. If it were a weapon, you might say, oh, but I want a weapon. Yeah, I want a weapon. I mean, gun sales have gone way up in the last few years. Well, I'll guard my mind like a weapon. Well, maybe that's why, there's a movement to make it so that you have to guard your weapon so that your kids don't get at it, or so that it doesn't actually accidentally get fired or discharged. Okay, if you have a weapon, again, you treat it with care. Yeah? Or maybe you just don't have one. I mean, we hear of all sorts of accidents occurring, don't we? Just actually about 45 minutes away from here in Hayden, Idaho, a few years ago, I think it was in Walmart or Target, one of those kind of stores. So a mother was, shopping in the store. She had her toddler, in the seat in the shopping basket, and her purse was there. And her purse was supposed to be something that was toddler-proof, that her kids can't get into. Well, her kid got into it. It was like a toddler who didn't, I don't think, even know what a gun was, but, picked this thing up and wound up killing his mother. Okay, so then there's a child who grows up without a mother, and that child, even as they grow up, when they learn that they were the one that killed their mother, even though it wasn't their fault, they were a kid and didn't understand what they were doing, they're still going to go through their entire life feeling awful. Yeah. So, weapons need to be guarded and protected. And there's this best way to do that is don't have them. Okay. But then people say, but I need a weapon to protect myself. Well, just a few days ago, let's see if I can remember how this went. There was somebody who was shooting at a cop. And another person was there who had a licensed weapon, who shot the person who was shooting at the cop. At that time, another cop came and saw him because he was trying to kill the guy who killed the cop so that that guy didn't kill more people. But when the other cop arrived, they thought he was the murderer, and he got killed. The second cop killed him. Okay. And cops don't know when they arrive. This is the problem with having armed citizens. You may have a good intention to protect people, but when the cops arrive, they don't know who started it all. And if you're holding a gun, you're as likely to get shot as anybody else. Okay? So you protect your mind like you protect a gun. Yeah, better than you protect your gun. Yeah. Because if your mind doesn't go bonkers, then you're not going to use your gun either. Okay, protect your mind like you would a foe. You watch over it. You don't let your mind just go everywhere. And you protect it as you would fire. Yeah, we're quite aware of fire nowadays. Yeah, and the danger of fire. And we really go out of our way to protect from a fire. Okay, so we may say, well, why are sense objects, so bad that they're like a snake and poison, weapon, foe, or fire, I mean, the whole world is attracted to sense objects. And this is what makes our economy function. If nobody were attracted to sense objects, our economy would fall apart. Wouldn't it? Nobody would go out and buy new stuff. And, for many people, this is the purpose of my life, is to get more and better stuff. And what's wrong with having a little bit of pleasure anyway? This is the big one people ask. What's wrong with having some pleasure? There's so much pain and tragedy in life. What's wrong with some sense pleasure? A good meal, a good sex life, going to a concert, smelling nice perfume or smelling some good scent, seeing, beautiful objects. What's wrong? Okay. Well, nothing is wrong with seeing these things. Nothing is wrong with enjoying them. The problem comes when we get attached. We aren't content to just see something beautiful or contact something nice and then leave it. Yeah. When there's something nice, we want more of the nice feeling. So we cling to the object that we think is giving us that wonderful feeling. Okay. So, and as soon as we start clinging to things, then we get greedy, we get coveting, we deceive people to get what we want, we cheat people to get what we want. Some people even kill to get what they want. We steal, we lie, all sorts of things to get what we want. Yeah. And then we create this negative karma that ripens in an unfortunate rebirth. Yeah. Whereas, if we have a mind that's somewhat developed in the Dharma, there's the object, there's a pleasant feeling arising from contact to the object, and then it stops there. Okay. But we don't let it stop. I want more. I want better. I want to make it mine. I want it to be continuous. Yeah. And then that's the problem. Okay. So it's not that other objects or other people are bad. It's our mind gets uncontrolled in relationship to them. So in order to deal with our uncontrolled mind, we try and avoid things that our mind gets uncontrolled about. Yeah, it makes sense, doesn't it? Yeah, if you are an alcoholic, you stay away from alcohol, because your mind is uncontrolled around it. If you overeat on, I don't know what, mangoes or so, whatever it is, then, you don't get them to start with. Okay. And then that just helps keep the mind more peaceful. If you really like action movies where, people are jumping from the top of one building to the top of the other and shooting these fancy weapons going here and there and, trouncing on the enemy and, getting all your adrenaline going. And you find that, you want to watch every single action film. Yeah. And you waste your time doing it, then, better just, don't enroll on Netflix or whatever it is where you can get those things. Yeah. Okay. So that's verse 22. Then verse 23 talks about the fault in not controlling the senses. So the pleasures we desire will bring us ruin. They're like the kimba fruit, the Buddha said. Eschew them, it's their chains that tightly bind the worldly in samsara's prison house. Okay, so even though objects of sense pleasure appear to bring happiness, they often bring ruin. Okay. Why? Okay, so the Trump organization, Alan Weisselberg, they just got indicted now. What was the cause of this? What was going on? Well, he was getting perks that he was not paying taxes for, and the company was giving the perks and not paying taxes. What were the things? Nice, expensive car, beautiful apartment on the Upper West Side, all these sense objects. So because of attachment to sense objects, because of attachment to saving money so that you can go out and spend it and get more and better sense objects, then it's resulting in an indictment for tax evasion. Okay. There's such good examples. Stormy Daniels. Yeah? This applies to the earlier verse. Stormy Daniels, and you have to pay $130,000 to make her be quiet, to hush her up. And then, of course, people find out about it. She was the porn star, remember? Yeah. She's famous now, isn't she? Yeah. Yeah. But, he keep his hands off of women. So there was her, there was another one who was a Playboy bunny. I can't remember her name, And then there was another one. He's had how many women accuse him? And he's admitted to it. That tape that came out was just amazing. Okay, so yeah. But it was just normal locker room talk. Well, shut down the locker rooms, maybe. Please do not treat human beings as objects. Yeah. But, okay, so, they become your ruin. Yeah. in your effort to get what you want, you do all sorts of things. Who was the other guy? Somebody Edwards. He wanted to run for president. What? John Edwards, and he had a mistress in Argentina or somewhere and was sending her money that was getting deducted from his campaign account or something like that. Yeah. And, they found out about it and, forget a presidential run. Although nowadays that shouldn't stop anybody. A few years ago it stopped them from running. Now it's just, okay. But you really look and you see how it brings so much suffering in people's lives. Okay, so the pleasures we desire will bring us ruin. Yeah, they're like the kimba fruit, yeah? Must be some kind of fruit. Yes. Its skin is attractive, but it is unpleasant inside. Or it tastes delicious when one first eats it, but later it makes you sick. Okay? How many things have we eaten that we thought were delicious and then we got really ill afterwards? Again, attachment to sense pleasure. Okay, so Nagarjuna tells us, stay away from those objects, not, again, because the objects are bad, but because our mind is uncontrolled. Or if you have contact with them, enjoy it, and then that's it. Yeah. Because the thing is also, if you enjoy something and then the mind clings to it, then after the initial sense pleasure stops, the mind is dissatisfied. Yeah. It isn't that you satisfy your longing and then you just feel satisfied thereafter. You satisfy it, and then afterwards, when you don't have that object that gives you pleasure, or the duration of time the pleasure lasted, finished, then, we're back to craving again, aren't we? Yeah, I need something new to make me feel happy, to give me a good feeling. Okay, and so that longing and outward looking for sense objects like that, going from one thing to the next, trying to get satisfaction. Mick Jagger was right. I can't get no satisfaction. Yeah, and it's because in samsara, sense pleasures don't give any satisfaction. Yeah, and they keep us bound in samsara because, we have that experience, then the craving comes, then for more and better. Then we get angry when somebody interferes with us getting what we want again and experiencing it again. Okay. Then we get jealous of other people who have it when we don't. And then motivated by these mental states, we do all sorts of really unkind and harmful actions. Yeah. And which creates the karma, which, keeps us getting reborn again and again in cyclic existence. Okay? So they bring about our ruin in that way. Okay, I'll do one more verse here. This verse is verse 24, and it's in praise of those who are able to control their senses. So I figure we might as well stop on something that sounds good. Okay? So it says, of he whose fickle senses are controlled, these 6 that never cease to dart at things, and he who's fought and conquered many foes, the first is truly brave, the wise have said. It would be so easy to write this in English people could understand. I guess it's trying to sound poetic. Yeah, does it? Yeah, maybe that, I guess I'm just not a poetic person. I just want them, give it to me clear. Okay. So a person who has controlled their fickle senses, okay, so their 6 senses that until now never cease to look around for something to grab onto and be attracted to. So for somebody who's controlled that, yeah, and somebody who has fought, and in a worldly sense, okay, in a worldly sense, people who have fought and conquered foes, they're seen as the really brave ones, You get some kind of medal that the president puts around your neck, and if you got injured doing it, you get a Purple Heart. So somebody who's fought and conquered many foes is called a hero. Yeah, and they're praised up, down, and across for, their bravery and their strength in conquering the enemy. Shantideva, what he says about that is those people, the enemies that you killed, the people that you killed, they're going to die anyway. Why are you wasting your time killing them? They're sentient beings who are impermanent, who experience birth, aging, sick, and death. They're going to die sometime. Why are you killing them? They're going to die anyway. Yeah. And then Shantideva says, and anyway, the external enemies, they are not your real enemies. Yeah. They bother you for a while and they die. They bother you for a while. You meet them in a different circumstance and you could actually become friends. But the real enemies are the afflictions in our mind. Those don't go away. They come with us to our next life. Yeah, they keep us bound in samsara. So if you really want to destroy the enemy of self-grasping ignorance, destroy the enemy of the self-centered mind, destroy the enemy of craving and anger and jealousy and arrogance and so forth. Those are the real enemies that make us suffer, not other living beings. Yeah, from a Buddhist viewpoint, other living beings are kind because our life depends on them. How do we have everything that we use in our life? It comes through the efforts of other sentient beings. Yeah, so sentient beings are not our enemy, the real enemy. Sentient beings, they may kill you, but they can't send you to hell. And they only kill you once, and then, of course, you get another life. But afflictions that come with us, they send us to hell. They kill us again and again and again and again. Yeah. Even you meet your afflictions in a different situation, they're never going to be your friends. Okay. So, what the Buddha and these sages are saying is, our worldly vision is completely upside down. Yeah. What we consider an enemy is not necessarily an enemy. What we consider friends, we consider our anger a friend. My anger protects me from getting stepped on and taken advantage of. What we consider our friend, actually, from a Buddhist viewpoint, is an enemy who destroys us. Okay, so, what these sages are pointing out to us is that really when they talk about ignorance, we don't even begin to see the depth of our ignorance. Yeah. Because we have friends and enemies completely mixed up. Yeah. We survive. How do we survive day to day? Due to the kindness of other living beings. Yeah, we can't survive by ourselves. No way. Do we cherish other living beings? Only if they make us happy continuously. Yeah. Otherwise, we just use them. Okay. And they're really the people that we should take care of. And the afflictions are our real enemies. Okay. So the person, who in a worldly way has fought and conquered is called a hero. Okay. But the first one mentioned in this paragraph, the person who's controlled their senses, that is the really brave person. And who has said that? People with wisdom. Yeah. Ignorant people don't say that. You have to find the people with wisdom. Yeah. And because to subdue those enemies in our mind takes incredible courage and incredible fortitude and endurance and resilience. All these traits that are we usually praise for warriors, actually, from a Buddhist perspective, are meant for people who can subdue their own mind. Whereas the warriors create a ton of negative karma and get reborn because of it. And when you die, you can't take your medals with you. Maybe they put your medals in your coffin with you, but you're dead and you don't enjoy them anymore. Okay, so we'll stop here. So think about it, Who's the friend? Who's the enemy? Yeah. And what do we lust after in our life? What are we grabbing at all the time?